Hold on tight for the next hour. You're entering into a place, a zone called the alternative to the alternative media. It's a place, a special place where even truth seeks.
Okay, wow, it's Friday already. You're listening to the Investigative Journal, last day of the week. Greg Anthony here, and sit tight. We have a great show for you today as usual. And three or four things I want to talk about. We're going to talk about the gay movement and Major League Baseball. We're also going to talk about the Catholic Church's involvement in Vietnam. And then we're going to talk about the two-tier justice system we have in this country and the Hegelian Dialectic, Trump versus Clinton, the U.S. versus globalists, and how it's really working. We'll get to that. It's a good story. Very rarely do I spend a lot of shows talking about the politics of the day without really setting the record straight for really what's going on, because you're not going to get it anywhere else. So I do my best to translate it for you, although I'm sure there's people that can do it much better. But let's start out with really I'm going to cover this very quickly. Yesterday I watched a documentary on Vietnam, and it brought to mind Saigon, back at the time when John F. Kennedy was killed. And this came right after the coup against the Diem government in Saigon, supposedly the more or less democratic government in South Vietnam. At the same time, we had Ho Chi Minh in the north, and he had been for a long time getting the rebel movement together and communism, working with the Chinese to basically set up the Jesuit war. And I use that term meaning it totally, the Jesuit war, because they were playing the Hegelian order out of chaos in Vietnam as well. And you can apply it to most everything. So anyway, we got Ho Chi Minh doing his thing there. At this time, Kennedy had realized that it was a hopeless case in Vietnam because the people were turning against the Diem government that we supported, that was supposedly to fight communism. Now, the one thing that's overlooked is most of the population, 75% of the population in Vietnam was Buddhist, and the country in the south was run by the Diem Catholic government. Yes, the minority Catholic government running the whole country. And it was interesting that how this coup took place, how they created order out of chaos, was that right around the time that Kennedy had realized this is a hopeless case, and he was basically going to pull out, the powers that be in the Diem government began to clamp down on the Buddhists. And what they did is there was a celebration. It was the 2,572nd birthday of Buddha. And they ran their flag, the Buddhist flag, and the Diem government said no, and they began to persecute Buddhists. That's where back then you would see Buddhist monks burning themselves in the street. So the whole idea here, we have this Catholic government, openly was clamping down on Buddhism, and the Vatican, of course, not doing anything. They were behind it. And the whole idea was to create this war using communism against capitalism in America to bring about their synthesis, which was a Vietnam they can control with less Buddhists. So many of the Buddhists were killed during the war, and that religion was basically kind of like Germany, or kind of like Poland when there was so many Jews in Poland, and then at the end of the war there weren't many, and the same happened in Vietnam. So they were basically doing the same thing. And little is talked about the Catholic Church's involvement, but you know they were there, and it was an openly Catholic Diem government in South Vietnam. Basically then, we allowed that government to be toppled. Remember? Kennedy, when that coup took place, it was in November of 1963, only about 2 weeks before Kennedy was killed on the 22nd of November. So Diem's overthrown. We got a whole new operation going there now, and now the big war is going to take place in Vietnam. Kennedy wanted to pull out then, and that's one reason why they had to knock him off. So, there we go, and we know that the rest of that's history. The Vietnam War then escalated, and that's for another day. But don't forget the Jesuit Catholic involvement in the Diem South Vietnam government during that time, and their basic goal was to slaughter Buddhists, and they did a good job. Order out of chaos, the Jesuit slogan, right? All right, enough of that. You know, when stories like this appear, I get really upset because baseball is a real favorite pastime of mine. I grew up as a kid playing it in Chicago. In fact, grew up near Wrigley Field, the friendly confines, during the time of Ernie Banks and Ron Santo and Ernie's great slogan, "Let's play two today." And I remember one summer I went to about 35 Cub games, and it was only like 80 cents to get in. But I digress. But here's a story that really upsets me. And let me tell you where we've come. I want to show you propaganda in sports. Now, when this gay movement, this gay political movement starts intersecting with baseball, I start to really get ticked off because, you know, there's no sense in being politically everyone is so politically correct you can't say anything. And here's what I mean. Now, if you don't follow baseball, just bear with me for a minute because it's really important. If you're a Christian, if you're a person that wants to express your ideas about life and how you want to bring up your kids, things like that, this story is important. And I swear to God, 30 years ago, you'd have never heard anything like this. The stink that was put up because a man, one baseball player, said something that they think is homophobic, and he's looked at as a Christian homophobe. Now, the guy I'm talking about is a good ball player. His name's Daniel Murphy. And Daniel Murphy was just about 4 or 5 days ago traded to the Chicago Cubs. And outside of the reason they traded him for his baseball ability to help a lineup they needed to get some more good hitting bats in there, they always vet the trades people make. They pay these guys a lot of money. They want to know a little bit about them. And the baggage, and I don't think it was baggage, that Murphy carried was that when he was playing with the New York Mets in 2015, he said something that to me was basically just stating his opinion. But it has been blown out of proportion because the political movement you can't say a word if you disagree with the gay lifestyle. Now, here's exactly what happened. The first Major League Baseball player to ever come out of the closet, so to speak, was a guy by the name of Billy Beane. Now, if you're a baseball fanatic, don't confuse him with the president of baseball operations in Oakland, former GM Billy Beane, who wrote the book Moneyball. Remember, was involved in the movie Moneyball with the Oakland Athletics. Billy Beane was played for the Mets, didn't have that great a career, and Billy Beane was the first baseball player to come out of the closet. Now, in 2015, when Daniel Murphy was playing with the Mets, Billy Beane was invited, he was no longer playing baseball, by the Mets organization to give a speech about inclusion, about coming out of the closet, about being a gay baseball player. And for that Sunday that they had a big celebration, an inclusion or gay movement celebration at the ballpark. Can you believe they do these things now? Why not have a celebration about the Polish lifestyle? You know, eating kielbasa and beer. Come on. Some people may not agree with the Polish lifestyle. Like, for example, when I grew up, we would have weddings in the Polish community that would last a weekend. Now, you may not agree with that, but you surely can say it. Well, Daniel Murphy, when Billy Beane was invited to speak and then given a uniform and come out on the field, Murphy was quoted in the newspaper, now in New York, stating, "I disagree with Billy Beane's lifestyle. I totally disagree with it, but that doesn't mean that I can't be a friend of his, and that doesn't mean that I can't get to know him. That doesn't mean that I want to change his lifestyle. It doesn't mean," that's basically all he said. He said, "I disagree with it, but that doesn't mean that I can't become his friend and get to know him. Now, to me, what's wrong with that? Do you see anything wrong with that? Now, 30 years ago, that would have been perfectly fine. I disagree with the gay lifestyle, but they can, if you want to be gay, that's up to you. Now, I remember the first time I met a gay person. I was in college working on the newspaper, and one of the guys I worked with was gay, and my reaction to him was the same. Hey, I remember that. I said, I was working with him, I said, hey, listen, I may not agree with your lifestyle, but it doesn't mean we can't work together. Okay, fine. Nowadays, if I said that, I'd be called what Dan Murphy's been called, Daniel Murphy, a gay avowed Christian homophobe. And let me read this article to you, because this is how the mainstream media has switched and changed this man's words. Now, they're writing about this in Chicago, and I'm looking at him with a picture of the Major League Baseball uniform on. Now, Dan Murphy is a Christian. He openly admits that I'm a Christian. I have Christian beliefs. Now, here's the headline. Daniel Murphy makes things worse with his new message to gay Cub fans. Now, how many gay Cub fans are there? I grew up as a Cub fan, and I don't remember too many. Now, for example, this Sunday, they're going to have a gay celebration at the ballpark. And to make matters even more difficult for Mr. Murphy, but to show you that the Cubs, understood what he said, the owner, part owner, is the owner are the Ricketts family, very wealthy family, and one of the sisters is gay. So anyway, that's an aside on the story. Now here's the headline, and let me tell you why this is so crazy and why this has gotten so out of hand. I said a long time ago, the gay movement is a political movement geared to make this the new normal. And I said jokingly the other day that pretty soon it's going to be gays are going to outnumber the people that aren't gay. And it's going to be, we're the minority, and what rights will you have? None to say anything. The reason for this is that, we don't want to get into the whole background of the elites and why they're doing, but let's just say simple and say it's a political movement, and it is geared to really change people, even though they're not born gay. Right. I mean, nowhere in the world will you ever get anyone that really looks at this subject rationally to say that they're not a minority of people. And the lifestyle should be able to be talked about openly for people that aren't gay. Listen, I don't want my children growing up getting taught in school early on about the way they're teaching kids about sex now. At 3 years old they start, and they're teaching that you don't really know who you are anymore, a man or a woman, and it doesn't matter. This is what's happening. So Dan Murphy, all he says was, look, I don't agree with their lifestyle, but doesn't mean we can't be friends. Okay? The underheadline was, the Chicago Cubs will parade Murphy, an avowed Christian homophobe, in front of gay fans this Sunday. That's coming up Sunday at Wrigley Field. They say he's an avowed Christian homophobe for saying that. So I guess I could be considered a Christian homophobe for just what I said to my friend when I was in college, right? Now, let me read this article to you, because you're gonna see, and I'm telling you right now, that this movement is geared not because they really care about gay people. It's because they want to infect society with a sickness. They want to change men from women, women from men. And it's crazy. And we know it's wrong, but you can't talk about it or you're considered a Christian homophobe. Just for saying, hey, I don't agree with them, but that's okay. I can be your friend. Now, Daniel Murphy's here's the article. Daniel Murphy's impact on the Cubs was immediate Thursday night. On the field, the Cubs' new leadoff hitter went 2 for 5 and scored once in a 7-1 routing of the Reds, Cincinnati Reds. The National League's best record, that's the Cubs. They're number 1 in the National League right now. Get even better as the Cubs got a big win at Wrigley. Off the field, Murphy did nothing to quell concerns of the LGBTQ. What the hell is LGBTQ? I'm so sick of that. Cub fans. that an avowed homophobe was now a part of their favorite team. Now, an aside before I continue reading, there was another article saying, a Cub fan wrote an article saying he's no longer going to go to Wrigley Field anymore. Okay, big deal. I don't care. What do I care? If you want to, you're not going to go because Dan Murphy said he doesn't agree with the gay lifestyle, but he'd be your friend. He'd say the same thing to you. But you're not going to watch the games now because you consider him a gay homophobe. It's insane. Now, the article says he did nothing to quell the concerns. Well, what did he do? When he was asked after the game if he had any comment, you know the media is going to jump on him here, comment for gay fans who were connected and who were concerned with the Cubs' acquisition of him, he was trite at best. Now, here's what he said. I'm going to give you the quote. And this whole article is written off this quote. He said, "Oh dear, I hope that people will still be Cub fans." That's all he said. He didn't say anything else. And he also mentioned in his interview when he was at the press table after the game, he said, they asked him about this, and he said, "Listen, I've talked to Billy Beane and we're good friends, and there's nothing to it." And in fact, the Cubs reached out to Billy Beane, and Billy said, "No, he'd be a great addition to your team. Even, and we don't disagree with our lifestyles, but we're friends." So what the heck's going on here? But here's what the article went on. They pieced out a word. He said, "Oh dear," right? Remember he said, "Oh dear, I hope we don't lose any Cub fans." He says, "Oh dear." Then they add all this. This is all made up. He said, as he looked off dismissively into space. In other words, now they're paraphrasing and putting words in his mouth, these gay people, this is what they think he said. These gay people are just so damn oversensitive when Christians like me say the bad things about them. He didn't say that. Then he went on with, "I could not care less what those gays think" answer about how gay fans should continue to cheer for the Cubs. All he said was, "I hope we don't lose any fans." But he said, they put words in his mouth. He didn't say, "I couldn't care less what those gays think." He didn't say anything like that. This is the craziness that's in these people's heads. Look, you're gay. I don't care. Don't make it a big deal. I'm not gay. Do I go around spouting off I'm not gay? And do you agree with my lifestyle? Apparently not. Because you don't live my lifestyle. And if you said that, I wouldn't say anything. I wouldn't say you're a gayophobe or whatever you want to be called. It's crazy. You're a minority of people. Very few are. And you know what? If you want to be that way, go ahead and do it in your own house and don't make it a political issue. Because I'm not making being a heterosexual a political issue. That's the way I was born. Were you born that way? I've just lost patience with this political movement. It's insane. And there's a book, we did a show once called, oh boy, I won't get into it. It talks totally about the Nazi gay movement. It's very similar to what's going on here. So, it's called The Pink Swastika, if you want to look it up. And I've interviewed the author many times. He went on with, he never said any of this. During the press conference, he also waxed poetically. This is how, he said at the press conference, I'm a friend of Billy's, but here's how they put it. He waxed poetic about openly gay MLB executive Billy Beane, with whom Murphy has become friendly. For Beane's party, we have tried to connect with Murphy to build understandings. On Thursday, Murphy's felt like a lot like the all too common, "I'm not a racist, I have a black friend" line of thinking. What are you talking about? These guys are absolutely crazy. To have this article written about this guy and then connect it with baseball, go back to your little house, have your little gay family, I don't care. But don't start putting words in the mouth of a guy who is a Christian, doesn't agree with your lifestyle. That's it. We all are supposed to agree that your lifestyle is normal. It's not normal. Okay? Let's just say it. It's not normal. To be clear, now they're talking here, devout Christian Murphy said unequivocally 3 years ago that he disagrees 100% with Billy Bean's lifestyle. So what? You disagree with my lifestyle. Otherwise, you'd be heterosexual, right? You don't agree with me. Can't we just agree to disagree? What's wrong with that? Just shut up. But now I look at them, they're rolling their gay flags all over. They'll be all over Sunday at Wrigley Field. You know, can you imagine the signs? No Christians allowed. Give me a break. You know, the funny thing is, this guy doesn't realize that most Chicago people probably think the way that Daniel Murphy thinks, especially if you were born as a baby boomer. Now the young millennials, they won't say a goddarn thing. They're too damn politically correct and scared to do anything. Half of them, get out and work. Don't live in your mother's basement. Okay. To be clear, devout Christian Murphy said unequivocally 3 years ago that he disagrees 100% with Billy Bean's lifestyle. Okay, fine, I disagree with it. Now, he goes on and says this. Oh, we got 23 minutes here. He says, I'm a big fan of giving people second chances. What second chance? He doesn't need a second chance. I'm going to give you a second chance and just shut your mouth. And letting them correct past issues, even their underlying belief system doesn't change. What belief system? He doesn't like your lifestyle. They'll put words into his mouth like, oh, he's a Christian. He means we're going to hell. Well, if you're a homosexual and you're not a Christian, you don't believe in it anyway, so what are you worried about? You don't believe in heaven or hell, so what are you worried about? You really think that, he didn't say you're going to hell. He just said, hey, listen, I don't agree with your lifestyle. So people say things they sometimes wish they hadn't. He doesn't wish he hadn't said it. And after education and reflection, people can change their public tone. Don't change your public tone just to be politically correct. I've given people space to change their tune over and over again, praising guys like Garrison Hearst, Tim Hardaway, and David Tyree. Yeah, they were pressured because somebody was going to fire them or something. You've given them a second chance. Murphy has even, with this press conference, demonstrated no interest in building bridges between himself and the community he has publicly degraded. He's not degraded anybody. Can you believe this guy? He has his gay friend and he's good to go. Yeah, so what? Oh boy. So then he ends by saying the Cubs host their annual Out at Wrigley event this Sunday, celebrating the LGBT community. What? Why don't you celebrate some really important things? These guys are Why do they get a day at the ballpark? Give me a break. There's only 82 games. I can think of 82 better ways to celebrate a ball game. And I'm not being racist. Does every minority, what about, give me a break. I could think of a million minorities, and everyone should have a day at the ballpark. No, this is political BS. So, and it says, yet this presence at Wrigley this Sunday will feel different, a real slap in the face of a community that has given so much praise to the Cubs. Oh, give me a break. I've about had it, especially when they start doing this at the ballpark. I go to watch a ball game, have a hot dog and a beer. I don't want to listen to your crap about the gay community. Back in 3 minutes on the Investigative Journal.
The program you are listening to is 100% sponsored by you, the listener, on this First Amendment Rights Media channel. You will notice that there are few commercials on this radio network. There's a good reason for that. Corporate advertising dollars come with strings that limit program content. So without your help, these programs cannot continue on internet or our several affiliates. If you benefit by the educational law programs, we ask you to give. If you are admonished or nurtured by the Bible and ministry programs, we ask you to give. If some voice a cause that you are passionate about, we ask you to give. If you believe in any of these, we ask you to support them as you would a missionary on a continual basis, as if giving a tithe for missionary radio. These programs are not commercially viable and must be supported by those faithful to the cause of truth. Look for the button to sponsor your favorite programs at our listen and schedule pages on the internet. Then, when you subscribe, we will send you the last quarterly MP3 CD of that program immediately, and continue to do so with each new quarter. We will also give you unlimited archive access to all of our programs. We're asking you to give much less than a tithe, so that you may also send support directly to a particular program host, cause, and anywhere else the Spirit may lead you. Do all to the glory of our God and Creator, for His holy nation, the only kingdom that will last forever. Thank you for listening.
Visit crosstheborder.org, CROSS, crosstheborder.org, to get your print, EPUB, or PDF version of Nicholas Arthur's new book titled When the Third Temple is Built. That's crosstheborder.org. When it comes to prophecy today, much of the evangelical Christian world has their eyes on Israel, waiting and watching to see when the third temple will begin to be built. The plans are drawn, the Jewish people are eager. Most evangelical Christians today believe that the rapture will happen before the third temple is built. Hi, I'm Michael Eugene. I was taught that Daniel's 70th week was in the future. Is that really what the Bible teaches? Have we searched the scriptures and found this to be true? Why is it so important for a re-established Israel to build a third temple in Jerusalem? Is it necessary to build a temple on the same location already occupied by the Dome of the Rock? Is it necessary for sacrifices to take place in the temple on Temple Mount? Is there really a rapture followed by 7 years of tribulation? What is the New Testament temple? Can we identify history and prophecy? Who is the first beast in Revelation chapter 13? Who are the 7 kings in Revelation 17? I have asked all these questions, and I have found Nicholas Arthur's new book, When the Third Temple is Built, answers all these questions and more using Scripture to interpret Scripture. The Bible says that no prophecy of Scripture is of any private interpretation. Nicholas shows us in his new book, When the Third Temple is Built, how the Bible interprets prophecy and not man's private interpretation. Visit crosstheborder.org, CROSS, crosstheborder.org, to get your print, EPUB, or PDF version of Nicholas Arthur's new book titled When the Third Temple is Built. That's crosstheborder.org.
The following program is labeled dangerous and off limits by the supreme Jesuit command. But stand tall, people. Listen up, and you may just learn something.
Oh, dear Lord Jesus, this ain't happening, man. This can't be happening, man. This ain't happening.
Oh boy, we're back. And at the break I was thinking about, boy, am I going to get a lot of hate emails on this one, But, I don't consider it hate speech. I don't consider it even degrading homosexuals. It's a minority. I don't agree with you, but I didn't say anything more than that. I mean, I can talk to you. You want to, if I had a business, you can buy something. I don't really care. Just don't start this political garbage, and don't ruin my baseball games, okay? It's crazy. And, I was thinking about it, and I'm going, why are we even talking about this? I mean, it's just insane, because really what's happening is that the new normal is now to be changed. Now, think about this. I got to write a headline for my YouTube, right? And don't you think people write headlines just to get 1 million hits, and then the person hits on it and says, oh, I only listened to 3 seconds. They don't say how long they listen to the crap that's on the internet. I mean, you can get, what would you rather have? 1,000 hits where a person just listens to you say hello, or 50 people that listen to your 30-minute show? I don't know. I think I'd rather have the 50 people that listen to it all instead of the recognition of getting 1.7 million hits. But what I will do to do a test on this is on my headline, I think on my YouTube I will say something like, I don't give a crap about the gay community. That should get every gay in the country to read it. Maybe one of them will get my point. That I don't really care. I mean, I don't agree with you, but that's it. I don't need to be lectured or given a second chance. And neither does the Cubs second baseman, Daniel Murphy. And let me tell you, I look basically at Dan Murphy and say, hey, what can you do for me today? How many hits can you get? You know, I like the ball. He's a good ball player. And I want to see the Cubs win the World Series again. And I don't give a damn about the gay movement Sunday or anything. In fact, I don't even think you should have a gay movement day there. I can think of there's 81 home games. I could think of 81 better reasons. I'd rather have, people who have, who love Frog Day, who love frogs come. People who, there's all these minorities in the world that don't get any recognition whatsoever. But, they're not. I want to say one thing about this. All you gays out there, or if you're not gay, read the book called The Pink Swastika. And you're going to get an idea why the elite in this country are pushing this political agenda. And that's all I'm going to say. You're being used as a political pawn. And my question always has been this. How many people really have come out of the closet not for reasons that they're really gay, but they have other psychological problems, and they figure this is one way to get notoriety? And hell, I had a problem with my girlfriend. I can't seem to get along with women. I must be gay. Or a woman goes, these men these days are just so, they're uncaring. They're not very, sensitive. I think I'm a lesbian. And so you just switch over because all you've heard is, hey, it's all right. Come on, you don't really know what you are. You don't know when you're born that you're a man or a woman. That's what the elites are trying to teach us. And it's insane. So anyway, leave it at that. Everybody call in and say it's hate speech. That I need a second chance. I don't need a second chance. What I need is some understanding that what's going on here is a political movement done for reasons other than just to say, oh boy, look how many gay people are there in the world? What is it going to be? 80% of the world is gay and they didn't know it? Give me a break. All right. Enough of the gay community, but I think it's needed to talk about this because that, when it gets into the baseball field, then I get a little mad. And I hope that, and who goes to this game on Sunday? Are they you got to be gay to get in? Or you just got to celebrate the gay movement? Can you get into Wrigley Field on Sunday if you disagree with their lifestyle? That'd be interesting. I'm going to go there, or have one of my friends, I'll call him from Chicago, and get to the gate and go, hey, I disagree with, just like Daniel Murphy, I disagree with the gay lifestyle. Can I still come in? See what they say. That'd be fun. Wrigley Field, what a great place to go, though. I used to love it as a kid. Like I said, I went to like 30 games one summer. I used to live right around the corner. Or near it, yeah. But anyway, what can we do after that? Jeez, it's hard to switch gears, especially when it's Friday. All I keep thinking about is, wow, what am I going to do this? I got to have a good, fun weekend. Okay? I think I'll go to Wrigley Field on Sunday and say, with a banner, I need a second chance. Oh, God. All right, here we go. Or how about if I went there with a sign, no gays at a baseball game? Oh boy, that would be fun, wouldn't it? Oh, you'd make the newspaper. Somebody will do it just to get notoriety. That's all that people do now. All right, so now we got to switch over here. I promised that I was going to do a whole show on the political climate in Washington and give you an idea of why this is so crazy and why it's nothing more than a Jesuit Hegelian dialectic at work. Now, people that believe in either Trump or the other side, half America believes in, make America great again. The other half believes in globalism and open borders, things like that. But the point is, all of you people that either are on the left or the right, bear with me, and if you kind of in the camp I am, where I agree that both of these parties work together, the clue I'm going to give you is you're going to have to understand that this is going to be revolving around a subject of the two-tier justice system that we're seeing on news every day in America now. And the reason I know that Trump's in the pocket of the globalists, and this is just a Hegelian dialectic, and he's being used as the right-wing nationalist American system against globalism, is that he appointed Jeff Sessions as his attorney general, who's doing absolutely nothing. He didn't have to do that. Because otherwise, if you had a normal attorney general, they would be prosecuting the globalists, and they're not. All they're doing is going after anybody that knows Trump, and this is an orchestrated effort. So, let me give you a clue. I got to check because this is going to take some time, and I'm not going to have enough time to do this because I want to give you a backdrop. Why don't we do this? How about I give you the Hegelian dialectic backdrop to this, and then move into next week on Monday, everything about Trump and the political system and the court system and books coming out now regarding the two-tier justice system and how in Washington could this be going on. And I say because if they are working a plan, they are orchestrating this for one reason, that is to get their global one world order. And this is how they have to do it. Now, how people go, how can they do it this way? Well, you control both sides. And then you rub them together, and you have a synthesis, which is, in this case, globalism. That's what's going to happen. Socialism or whatever to destroy this country, because you cannot have a one world government, a one world order, without bringing America and this system down. That's why you're hearing it every day on the left. America's no good. We have to get rid of it. The system is flawed. The system is broke. Everything is gone. And then on the other side, they want to build up America. That's just the glossing over of it. But anyway, we have to understand the Hegelian dialectics. And let me just start out by saying it's a key component of the Luciferian system. Yes. Which is not just a religious system out of Rome. Now, why do you say Rome is Luciferian? Well, at one of their big Easter Masses every year in the Vatican, they open up with a Latin song that tells you they worship Lucifer when you do the translation. So there. But it's also a political system. And that's what's going on in Washington now. The Hegelian principle is summed up in the creed of the Jesuits called Ordo ab Chaos, order out of chaos. This mythology has been highly effective for the ruling class for hundreds of years, namely the high-ranking Jesuits, who leverage a whole host of different religious and political powers to gain greater dominance. This quote I took here, that last quote, was taken from Order Out of Chaos, and it was written, who wrote this? A lot of people, they don't even know, by the Administration in Equipping the Saints. Okay, I wanted to give that quote a reference. So they've been using this for a long time, and they use a lot of different religions, like they did in Vietnam, like they did in Germany, just to give you two examples, to gain this greater dominance. Now, Order Out of Chaos works like this. Chaos, for one, distracts the population so they pay no attention to the man behind the scenes. Yeah, people in America are only looking at this chaos going on now, the two competing factors, globalists, Democrats, socialists against the American conservative Republicans. And that's all people are seeing, so they're not paying attention to what's going on behind the scenes. And two, it's funny how people make up all the time in this world. Just during the Vietnam War, which wasn't long ago, it was the Chinese who built up Ho Chi Minh and the Viet Cong, right? But we've forgotten about that. China's our friend. Did you also realize that China, we talk about, if I said something like this, we got to get rid of Muslims that are radical in this country, get rid of them. People would say, you're racist. But do you realize that in China, we buy Chinese goods, I bet you everything in your house is Chinese, right? Do you realize they've imprisoned over 1 million Muslims in China? Nobody talks about it. But we do business with them. China's great, right? Our corporations love China. Our elites are putting money into China. So they're full of shit, right? And they also put gays away. I mean, it's not a very nice place in China, but we like China. We like to buy their goods, right? And we also like to let them steal, Clintons like to let them steal all of our intellectual software and all of our military secrets. We let them do that because in the end, when America is overthrown and China takes over, these people got to go somewhere and do business somewhere. Oh, they'll do business here. But don't get an idea that the Vatican or our elites in office really like democracy in the Republic. No. All of them, on the left or the right, are pushing for a globalist system. They just talk a different game. Now, it works like, I told you how it works. It hides the people. People get so tired of these conflicts that they're willing to compromise anything to get some harmony. And that harmony then comes in the order of those. So they're going to create such chaos that when all these things are coming at us, people are they're going to stand up and go, we will solve the problem and make you safe, and people will allow the globalists to take over. And the Pope to go in Jerusalem and say, I am the king of the world, and everybody, I will help you. And everybody will love the Antichrist system and love the Luciferian system. And really, the Luciferian system is built on this duality of individuals, right? Man and woman intersecting together, being one and the same. And that's why you're seeing all these political gay movements take hold, And you're seeing it creep into your political system, where it's going to be normal to see a transgender run for governor, which is happening in Vermont. And little do you know that you already had a transgender, most likely, in the White House as Michelle or Michael Obama. All right, I'm going to get some emails on that, but do some research on it. I'm not saying she is or she isn't, or he isn't or he isn't. Just saying there's a lot of information out there. And ask Joan Rivers. Well, you could, but she was killed or died about a month after she said Michelle Obama was a transgender, and everybody in Hollywood knew it. Okay. Thank God I can say it, and they don't kill me in a month. I don't have a big audience. So please don't listen to my show. The more people that listen, the better chance I get to get killed. Like Joan Rivers. They let me do it because I don't have, hey, there's only 100 people who listen to Greg. Who cares? Joan Rivers was talking to like millions. When making, okay, this is a good, I'm taking this. Found this quote I got to read. It says this: when making their comeback and complete takeover of the Vatican in the early 1800s, the Jesuits were prepared to be virtually undetectable as they mastered the arts of espionage and infiltration strategies. And doing it today. Let me tell you, nothing's changed. And as a result of their great success, most people, and I'm saying this, they have no idea what the Jesuits are really about. That's why I do this show. And that's why people call me crazy all the time, because they have no idea who these guys are. And they say it's impossible. Even my friends, many of my old friends that I went to Catholic school with, they go, what? The Jesuits, they used to teach at Loyola High School, that's all. Most have no idea what the high-level Jesuits are really about, how devious and diabolical they really are, as well as the vast amount of global temporal power they have secured. We did that yesterday talking about the concordats. You see, the Vatican and the Jesuits are like a hand in a glove, like black and white. They have to work together. And we talked about how they gain global strategy through their many agreements and treaties with 200 countries in the world. And with this power and control, they easily have the means to rewrite history to cover up what they've done. We've talked about that. Why painting a beautiful picture of their image and track record. That's what I always run into. Over the years, and I've been doing this since the 80s, I always run into this beautiful picture that they paint, and people going, how could they be that way? Did you see the movie with Bing Crosby, My Way? You know, when he played the priest? Now, these Hegelian dialectics, this principle has been used for hundreds of years. And to make it easy, you control both sides of every conflict to get what you want, and then the outcome will be what you want. So you have to control the right, the left in politics. You have to control communism and America fighting. You have to control terrorism and the West fighting. So they work both sides of the coin to get what they want. And the whole thing is geared towards a one world order, one world religion. I hate to make things so easy, but that's it. I mean, let's try to make it. Let's not get confused. That's what's going to happen. And as mentioned, this principle was brought to a whole new dimension by the Jesuits, who were commissioned by the Pope to combat. It started in the Protestant Reformation when they were formed. Most people only recognize the mayhem of the Counter-Reformation, and it is so-called Holy Inquisition, as something that we are now hundreds of years removed from. However, the Counter-Reformation was gained more ground in this past century than ever before, as the modern Inquisition has taken more lives than the previous centuries combined. And this article, I'm just paraphrasing a few paragraphs here, is very on the point, because it's talking about the modern Inquisition, how we are mired in the past, talking about the Holy Inquisition where millions were killed. They can counter that very simply by saying we've changed, but they haven't. And the modern Inquisition is more diabolical, more devious than ever, killing more than ever was killed in the Holy Inquisition. If you add up everything, and two of the additions should be the Vietnam War, World War II, just to name a couple. This satanic advancement, and all of our social issues are changing because of this satanic advancement, was made possible by the covert natures and these tactics and strategies. Most people know of the tens of millions mass murdered by Stalin. Well, more people know about the millions killed by Hitler, but Stalin was probably a bigger mass murderer. And we, have done story after story about his connection to the Jesuits. But most details most folks are not aware of is that most of those people were various kinds of Christians, such as Orthodox and Protestants. We've talked about that. Most people, what about all the Buddhists killed in Vietnam? It was 75% Buddhists. Why do you think the minority Catholic government wanted to get rid of them? They understood Buddhists are never going to come under the hand of the Pope, and they never can be totally controlled. Basically, that is a fact. And so that was really a country that they could use to advance further this globalist agenda. Most people know of the 6 million Jews that were killed under Hitler, Third Reich, but most are not aware of the 13 million Protestants, and maybe more, who were annihilated mostly from northern Germany, who were firebombed, not by Hitler, listen to this, but by the Allies, under the assumption and propaganda that states like Prussia were in cahoots with the SS. Most people have no idea that these cruel dictators like Stalin, Hitler, Anton Pavlik, Mussolini, and many more were commissioned by the Catholic hierarchy as the modern-day inquisitors of the ongoing Counter-Reformation, which is going on still to this day. And what's even more difficult for Americans to see and accept is how the U.S. has been leveraged for the same purposes. When you understand the Hegelian strategy, the dialectic, you can then begin to recognize how it was implemented throughout history. It's really a great study, and you'll understand your politics today, which I'm going to get into Monday. and Trump and what's going on in Washington to really emphasize the Jesuits are doing the same thing. And when you recognize this in history, you can cut through the lies and deception to see the actual truth, or start to get to it. Then it is of essence to not only know the truth, but to understand the workings of how this Luciferian organization operates not only in your political and your spiritual system, but in your social system, i.e., these crazy political movements like transgenders, gays. This is not something that is there just to help these people. This is a satanic movement to change the thinking of mankind into this dual system of man and women are no different. As one, and look back at the Greek gods and the Egyptian gods, Isis and all this crazy stuff. That's why they have their little Isis obelisks in Washington, in St. Peter's Square, and in London, just to name a few. It's also important to know that this satanic system has launched so many disinformation campaigns, as well as history revision campaigns, within this past century to cover up really the true nature and the real grand magnitude of such atrocities. Many books, people, and other sources that have documented these accounts have been destroyed or suppressed and replaced with false versions of true accounts. And we've done a lot of that on this show. You know, the Hitler story, we talk about what happened to Lincoln, how they've changed that. And Hollywood right now is really helping them along the way. Oh boy, are they helping them. And, to end the show on this Friday, let me say this. I only got 30 seconds, 25 seconds, but do some research on this. Understand this Hegelian dialectic, how they do control both sides, and try to look at the world that way a little bit. And try to look at your own dealings in Washington that way, and you'll see that both political parties are controlled by the same powers behind the scenes. Have a good weekend, and back Monday on the Investigative Journal.
The book of Revelation says, "The spirit of prophecy is the testimony of Jesus Christ." This is at the very heart of FirstAmendmentRadio.com. In that spirit, we have created the Prophecy Reality News app for all of your mobile devices, streaming First Amendment Radio 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Available for your Apple, Android device, and smartphone, absolutely free. Get the Prophecy Reality News app installed today so you can listen to First Amendment Radio wherever you are. The Prophecy.
Since the beginning of time, kings have sought it, nations have fought for it. It has been traded, it has been borrowed, it has been purchased, it has been stolen. There's a reason for it. To secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and to our posterity. Invest with the security of gold and silver. Call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188 or visit discountgoldandsilvertrading.net. Listen to Financial Survival with your host Melody Cedarstrom right here on FirstAmendmentRadio.com at 4 p.m. Eastern or 1 p.m. Pacific Time. Visit discountgoldandsilvertrading.net or call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188. Toll free 1-800-375-4188.